जय श्री माता जी. Srimad Devi Bhagavat. If you want to know who Adi Shakti is, read Devi Bhagavat, said by Her Holiness Srimataji Nirmala Devi. Sankalpam. Mama Atmanah Sahajayogi Kutumbanam Atmonnati Prityartham Moksha Prapti Prityartham Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devyai Pujanam Karishe. The Holy Recital of Srimad Devi Bhagavat.
Chapter 9, Episode 15. The episode of Raja Vrishadhwaj in the story of Tulsi. Naradji asked, Prabhu, how did the pious Tulsi become the wife of Bhagwan Sri Hari? Where was she born and what was she in her previous birth? Whose clan did she purify and who were her parents? By what tapasya was she granted the great boon of receiving Bhagwan Sri Hari as her husband? Because the Divine Lord is desireless. Also, please tell me what caused her to take the form of a plant and how did she get caught in the web of an asura? O you who remove all doubts, please explain all this to me. Bhagwan Narayan says, Narad, there was once a great Punya Atma Manu called Daksha Savarni. He was a partial incarnation of Bhagwan Vishnu and he was very holy, renowned, and glorious. He was a staunch devotee of Sri Hari. He had a son called Brahma Savarni. He had a very pure attention. He always had dharmic thoughts and was a bhakta of Bhagwan Sri Hari. He had a son, Dharma Savarni. He had mastered all his senses and was devoted to Sri Hari. He had a son, Rudra Savarni, and he had a son, Deva Savarni. He was also a great Vaishnav. He had a son, Indra Savarni. This great devotee of Vishnu had a son, Vrishadhwaj. This Vrishadhwaj had great devotion to Bhagwan Shankar. The great Lord himself stayed for a long time in his kingdom. He was as dear to Bhagwan Shankar as his own son. Raja Vrishadhwaj had no belief in Bhagwan Vishnu, Lakshmi, or Saraswati. He had stopped doing puja to any other deity beside Bhagwan Shankar. In ego and arrogance, he began to disturb and cause obstacles in the Mahalakshmi pujas during Bhadramas, 6th month of the Hindu calendar. On Shukla Panchami day, in the month of Magh, 11th month, all the devatas used to perform a puja to Sri Saraswati. The king never participated. It had become his nature and inclination to cast aspersions and insults at yagyas and Vishnu pujas. He was totally devoted only to Bhagwan Shankar. Seeing his pride and arrogance, Surya put a curse on him. May your Shri, which is fame, fortune, brilliance, and reputation, be destroyed. Seeing his devotee in trouble, Bhagwan Shankar, Ashutosh Bholenath, Mahadeva, picked up his Trishul and attacked Surya. Surya, along with his father Kashyapji, went to Brahmaji for protection. Bhagwan Shankar reached Brahmalok. Brahma was also in awe of Sri Shankar, so he took Surya and went to Vaikunth. They took refuge at the lotus feet of the Lord of all, Bhagwan Sri Hari. They offered obeisance again and again and told the Lord the reason for their fear. Then Bhagwan Narayan offered them Abhay, protection, and said, "Do not be afraid. While I am here, there is no danger to you. If my bhaktas remember me in times of distress, no matter where they are, I go immediately to their aid. Devas, I am Karta Bharta, sustainer and protector of the entire universe. It is I in the form of Brahma who creates, and I in the form of Shankar who dissolves. I am verily Shiva. You are me, and Shankar is also not separate from me. I assume different forms to carry out creation and protection and dissolution. Devatas, go in peace. No harm will come to you. I promise you. From today, you will have nothing to fear from Shankar. He is the Swami of honest, pure men. He is called Bhakta Atma and Bhakta Vatsala and also submits to his devotees. Brahman, Sudarshan Chakra and Bhagwan Shankar are both dearer than life to me. In the whole Brahmand, there is no one of greater tejas, brilliance, effulgence. If Shankar so wishes, he can create by his Leela crores of suns. He has also the power to create crores of Brahmas. For this Trishuldhari, nothing is impossible. Negating all outside knowledge, he is absorbed day and night in my meditation. It has become his nature to chant my mantras from all his five faces and to sing my praises with complete devotion. I, in turn, am always concerned with his success and well being, because it is my principle to look after my devotees with the same degree of concern and compassion as they have bhakti and shraddha for me. By this time, Bhagwan Shankar reached Vaikunth. He bore the Trishul in his hand. He was mounted on Rishabh, and his eyes were the color of a red lotus. He dismounted from his conveyance, and with humble stance and peaceful air, he offered pranams to Lakshmi Kant Bhagwan Narayan. At that time, Bhagwan Sri Hari was seated on his jewel-studded throne. He was adorned with precious ornaments. He wore a crown, earrings on his ears, chakra in his hand, and a garland on his neck. His complexion was like a new, rain-filled cloud. He had 4 arms. His courtiers were waving white whisks around him. Narad, his entire body was anointed with sandal paste and he wore pitambar. The betel leaf offered by Sri Lakshmi was in his mouth. Seeing this beautiful and awesome form, Sri Shankar bowed his head at the lotus feet. Brahma offered pranams to Sri Shankar, and Surya, shaking with fear, also offered pranams to Sri Shankar. Kashyap bowed before Sri Shankar and sang his stutis. Then Sri Shankar sat on the throne offered to him by Sri Hari. The courtiers began to serve him also with the white whisk waving around him. After he got refreshed, Bhagwan Sri Hari spoke to him in sweet and gentle tones. Bhagwan Vishnu said, Mahadev, what has caused you to come here? Please tell me the reason for your anger. Mahadev said, Bhagwan, Raja Vrishadhwaj is my great devotee. I love him more than life. Surya has cursed him, and this is the cause of my anger. I went to the aid of my dearest son and wanted to kill Surya. But he ran to Brahma, and now he has come here with Brahma to take refuge at your feet. Any devotee who surrenders at your lotus feet cannot get affected by any danger or adversity. They are even immune to death and old age. Bhagwan, the fruits of devotion and surrender are evident. So what can I say? No sooner a person becomes your devotee, he becomes auspicious and entitled to your protection. But Jagat Prabhu, tell me what is to happen to my devotee, how will he continue to live? After the curse of Surya, He has lost all his honor and wealth. He has even lost his powers of thinking and discretion. Bhagwan Vishnu said, Shambhu, by the instigation of fate and destiny, a lot of time has passed. 21 yugas have elapsed, although here in Vaikunth only half an hour has passed. Therefore, you must return to your abode now. Time, which cannot be stopped or pushed back by anyone, has already consumed Vrishadhwaj. Not only this, but his son Ratadhwaj is also dead. At present, the two sons of Ratadhwaj are living. Their names are Dharmadhwaj and Kushadhwaj. They are still suffering the curse of Surya. They have no fame and fortune, nor do they have their kingdom. They now spend all their time worshipping Lakshmi. As a consequence, Lakshmi will manifest from the stomach of their wives. Then they will be blessed with Lakshmi. Shambhu, your devotee Vrishadhwaj no longer exists. Therefore, you may return to your abode. Devatas, you may also leave. Narad, after saying this, Bhagwan Srihari, together with Lakshmi, removed themselves from sight. All the Devatas were pleased and also left. The most complete and self-contained Shankar also left with the intention of doing tapasya. Chapter 9, Episode 16, Story of Vedvati with a reference to Sri Ramcharitra. Narration of incidents from previous births of Bhagwati Sita and Draupadi. Bhagwan Narayan says, Muni, Dharmadhwaj and Kushadhwaj performed severe tapasya to Bhagwati Lakshmi and got as boons all their desires fulfilled. By the blessings of Mahalakshmi, they got back their kingdom. They became dharmic. They were blessed with children. The virtuous wife of Kushadhwaj was called Malavati. The baby girl who was born to her was an Ansh, fractional manifestation of Lakshmi. She was born with divine knowledge, and at birth in clear tones she chanted the Vedas. She walked out of the birth chamber. For this reason she was called Vedvati. Soon after her birth she took a bath and went towards the forest to do tapasya. Many tried to stop her, but with her attention firmly fixed on Bhagwan Narayan, she left. She performed tapasya for one manvantar, 14th part of the day of Brahma, in the region of Pushkar. Her tapasya continued as a leela. In spite of severe renunciation, her body remained youthful and healthy. She heard a voice from heaven, O beautiful one, Bhagwan Srihari will be your husband in your next birth. That Lord, whom even Brahma and the Devatas find very difficult to attain with their worship, that same Param Prabhu will be your Lord and Master. Muni, after hearing this divine Akashvani, the maiden Vedvati went to the Gandhamadan mountain and performed even more severe tapasya. It was there that she saw Ravan, who could not be moved in any way. According to the Atiti Dharma, she offered him water to wash the feet, sweet fruits, and clear cool water to drink. Ravan was vile and wicked. After eating the fruits, he went very close to Vedvati and asked, Kalyani, who are you and what are you doing alone in this place? That Devi was most beautiful and there was a smile on her face. Seeing her, the lustful Ravan swooned. His heart became burning hot with agitation and impure thoughts. He wanted to pull her hand and decorate her hair with flowers and ornaments. Seeing his evil intentions, Vedavati was filled with anger. With her tapobal, power of tapasya, she caused him to become rooted to the ground, senseless and immovable. He could neither speak nor move. In this condition, he began to sing stutis in his mind to this lotus-eyed Devi. Worship of the Shakti does not go unrewarded. Therefore, Devi Vedwati, pleased with his worship, promised him the fruits of his worship in Parlok. At the same time, she also pronounced a curse upon him. O wretched rascal, for my sake you and your friends and family will perish, because you cast lustful eyes on me. Now you will see my power. Then Devi Vedvati, by her yogic powers, renounced her body. Ravan offered the body to the Ganga and made his way home, thinking, what wondrous incident have I just witnessed? This Devi has done an impossible thing, and he began to cry loudly. Muni, it was this Devi who later manifested as the daughter of Raja Janaka and was named Sita. She became the cause of the death of Ravan. Because of her punyas, she married Sri Rama, who was verily Bhagwan Sri Hari. It was not easily accessible to worship Jagatpati. By her severe tapasya as Devi Vedavati, that she was able to attain the Lord. In the form of Sita, the Devi spent many happy days with Sri Rama. She had memory of her previous tapasyas, but she did not recall them. In the present, she renounced all memory of the past. Chapter 9, Episode 17, The Manifestation of Bhagavati Tulsi. Bhagwan Narayan says, Narad, the wife of Dharmadvaj was called Madhavi. She used to accompany her husband to the beautiful forests of Gandhamadhan Parvat. They spent many years there and lost count of time. Then one day the king got enlightenment and ended this life of aimless pleasure. Madhavi gave birth to a beautiful baby girl on the day of Kartik Purnima. It was a day which was most holy, most auspicious, when the stars were most favorable, and it was a Friday. The child was as beautiful as the full moon on Sharad Purnima. Her eyes were like the lotus which blooms in autumn. Her lips were rosy like the bimba fruit, and the soles of her feet and the palms of her hands were red. She had a deep nabi. Her body remained warm in winter and cool in summer. Her complexion was shyam, blue-black. Her hair was dark and dense like the roots hanging around a banyan tree. She shone like the yellow champak. She was verily a fractional manifestation of Sri Lakshmi. She was incomparable. Learned and wise people called her Tulasi. She gave beauty to the earth like Sakshat Prakriti Devi. Even though everyone tried to prevent her, she left to do tapasya in Badrivan. She continued her tapasya for a very long time. Her one and only desire was that she should attain Bhagwan Narayan as her husband. During summer, she would perform penance amidst Panchagni, a collection of 5 fires, and in the winter she would sit in the cold water and do tapasya. And in the rainy season she would sit outside unprotected from the rain. For thousands of years she lived on fruits and water. Then for another 1,000 years she chewed leaves. And for another 1,000 years she just lived on air. By this time her body became weak. She continued her tapasya standing on one leg. Brahma hastened to Badarikashram to grant her a boon. The god with 4 faces came, seated on a swan. Tulsi offered pranams, and the creator of the world said to her, Tulsi, you may ask for your dearest wish. If you desire to become a bhakt of Bhagwan Sri Hari, or you want to be his servant, or you want eternal youth or eternal life, ask for it and I shall grant it to you. Tulsi said, Pitamaha, you are all knowing. Even then, I will tell you. In my last life, I was a gopi and my name was Tulasi. Golok was my home. I had the great fortune of being the favorite playmate of Sri Krishna. I was his Ardangini, wife, and with my Prabhu I spent many beautiful times. But I was not satisfied. Then one day, before the whole Ras Mandal, Devi Bhagwati Radha pronounced a curse on me. You go and take birth in Manav Yoni, human birth. Just then Bhagwan Govind said to me, Devi, do tapasya in Bharatvarsh. Brahma will grant you a boon whereby you will attain Sri Vishnu, who is my manifestation, as your husband. Saying this, Bhagwan Sri Krishna removed himself from the sight. O Guru, I renounce that body and now I am here in Bharatvarsh. That beautiful embodiment of peace, Bhagwan Narayan, was my husband once. I desire that I get him as my husband again. Please grant me this boon and fulfill my desire. Brahmaji said, a partial manifestation of Bhagwan Sri Krishna, a gop, by the name of Sudama, is also in Bharatvarsh due to a curse of Radhika. This gop is considered Sakshat Ansh, fractional manifestation of Sri Krishna. He has taken birth in the clan of Danu and is famous by the name of Shankachud. There is no one who can compare with him. At the present moment, he is beside the ocean. Being the partial manifestation of Bhagwan Sri Krishna, he remembers his past clearly. O beautiful one, you also know everything of your past. In this life, Shankachud will be your husband. Then in divine play, that same Bhagwan Narayan will pronounce a curse on you. You will get the privilege of purifying the world by manifesting in Bharatvarsh as a plant. You will be the foremost of all flowers. Bhagwan Vishnu will consider you dearer than life. Without you, pujas will be incomplete. You will grow profusely in Brindavan and will be called Brindavani. Your leaves will be used by gops and gopis to perform puja to Bhagwan Madhav. You will be the goddess of all the plants and will enjoy the company of Bhagwan Sri Krishna in his manifestation as a gop. Narad, after Sri Brahma spoke, a smile shone on the face of Tulasi. Her heart was joyful and she spoke to Sri Brahmadev. Pitamaha, I will speak the truth. The devotion and longing that I felt for the two-armed Shyam Sundar Bhagwan Sri Krishna, I do not feel for Chaturbhuj Sri Vishnu. But in obedience to the will of Govind, I will pray for Chaturbhuj Sri Hari. Oh, Govind has become inaccessible to me. Bhagwan, please make it possible for me to attain that Govind in the future. Please also release me of the fear of Radha. Brahmaji said, Devi, for your sake, I am teaching you the Shodashakshar mantra of 16 syllables. Enthrone it in your heart. By the boon that I give you, you will become very dear to Sri Radha. O fortunate one, you will also become as dear to Bhagwan Govind as Radha. Muni, then Jagadhata, father of the world, Brahma, gave to Tulasi the Shodashakshar mantra of Bhagwati Radha. He also advised her to sing stotras, recite kavach, and taught her puja procedures and protocols. Tulasi started her worship of Bhagwati Radha and by her grace acquired all her qualities. As promised by Brahmaji, she got all the fruits of her worship. Whatever hardships she underwent during the tapasya, all got transformed into instruments of happiness. Chapter 9, Episode 18. Tulasi sees Shankachud in her dream. On the command of Brahmadev, they get married. Bhagwan Narayan says, one day the daughter of Vrishadhwaj, Tulasi, was sleeping. She saw in her dream a young man of a very pleasing form. He was in the prime of youth. His body was anointed with sandal paste. He wore ornaments and a garland. His eyes were drinking in the beauty of Tulasi. In her dream itself, she enjoyed the courtship of this youth. Muni, when she awoke, Tulsi began to lament and feel sorry for herself. Narad, at that very same time, the great yogi Shankachud entered Bhadrivan. The Muni Jaigeshavya had given him the most pleasing mantra of Bhagwan Sri Krishna. He had sat on the holy land of Pushkar and awakened the mantra. He was protected by the auspicious Kavach. He had received a boon from Sri Brahma, and on his instructions he had come to Badrivan. As he entered, Tulasi saw him. He was as white and beautiful as a white champa flower. He wore jewels and ornaments. His face was like the full moon on Sharad Purnima. His eyes were like autumn lotus petals. Two earrings adorned his temples. He wore a mala of parijat and there was a smile on his face. His body was anointed with sandal paste mixed with kasturi and kumkum. This most pleasing figure of Shankachud was enthroned on a jewelled conveyance. Seeing him, Tulasi hid her face with a silken cloth. Her head was bowed in bashful modesty, her face outshone the full moon of Sharad Purnima. Jewelled anklets adorned her feet. There were blue lotuses in her hair. The golden chain around her waist tinkled with tiny bells. She wore a garland of malati flowers, and the ornaments on her hair enhanced her beauty. On her ears, she wore delicately crafted earrings studded with precious gems. She wore a heavy necklace of gold and gems. On her hands were armlets, bangles, bracelets, and rings. Shankachud was struck by her beauty. He approached and sat down beside her. He spoke in soft, gentle tones. Shankachud said, Devi, who are you? What is your father's name? Verily, you are the object of great admiration and respect. O you who possess all auspicious qualities, who are you in reality? Please tell me. Narad, hearing these words of praise, Tulasi bowed her head and spoke shyly. Mahashay, I am the daughter of Raja Dharmadwaj. I am here in this forest to perform tapasya. Who are you? You should leave as soon as possible because I have heard in the Shrutis that it is improper for a maiden to be alone in the company of a man. It is only that person who has never had the spiritual instructions or the good fortune to hear the Shrutis who develops bad intentions towards a maiden alone and unattended. There is no substance in the sweet tones that a woman uses. She is always vain and conceited. In fact, a woman is like a pot of poison, though her face and voice drips with honey. She is like a chain which binds one to the material world. A woman is likened to Indrajal, trickery and illusion, and as unreal as a dream. From the outside, a woman appears beautiful, but within she harbors wicked and despicable intentions. Her body and mind are both unclean. During creation, Brahma made this elusive woman for cheats and fraudulent persons. She is poisonous for those men who seek moksha. Therefore, the man who desires moksha should not even look at a woman. Shankachud said, Devi, Whatever you have said is not untrue, but please listen to my words, which are a blend of truth and untruth. The Creator made two kinds of women, genuine and false. Both are pleasing to behold, but one has dignity and one has not. Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga, Savitri, and Radhika, these five Devis are Shrishti Sutra, the root causal of creation. The main purpose of their manifestation was creation. Their partial manifestations as Ganga and other Devis are their material or substantial forms. They are important. These most glorious and splendid Devis are the mothers of all auspiciousness, prosperity, and blessings. Shatrupa, Devhuti, Swada, Swaha, Dakshina, Chayavati, Rohini, Varuni, Shachi, Kuber Patni, Aditi, Diti, Lopamudra, Anasuya, Kotivi, Tulasi, Ahalya, Arundhati, Mena, Tara, Mandodari, Damayanti, Vedavati, Ganga, Manasa, Pushti, Tushti, Smriti, Meda, Kalika, Vasundhara, Shashti, Mangal Chandi, Dharampatni, Murti, Swasti, Shraddha, Shanti, Kanti, Kshema, Nidra, Tandra, Kshuda, Pipasa, Sandhya, Divya, Ratri, Sampati, Dhriti, Kirti, Kriya, Shobha, Prabha, and Shiva. All are women manifestations of these Devis who appeared in every yuga and were honored and respected. A part of a fraction of Jagadamba which became Apsaras in heaven have been called as ordinary. In the world, they are considered women of low moral character. A woman who is virtuous, honest, and truthful is honored and respected in the world. Wise and learned men call such women Vastav Rupa, embodiment of genuine womanhood. These women, who are of Rajogun temperament, are of medium quality because there is no end to their desires and requirements. They succumb to pleasures and comforts and get overpowered by them and spend all their lives searching for more. Guile, hypocrisy, attachment, and spiritual ignorance dwell within them. They can never be sincere and obedient to the laws and statutes of Dharma. Therefore, a woman in whom Rajoguna predominates can never have the qualities of goodness, virtue, and chastity. Learned men call them as Madhyam Rupa. Women of Tamorup are inferior and degenerate. Wise men call them Adham, miserable, despicable, low, and sinful. Devi, you have rightly said that a man of decent lineage should not hold conversation with an unknown, unchaperoned lady in a lonely place. I also support this view. But I have a desire to make you my bride. I am Shankachur. I belong to the clan of Danu. And the most important thing is that in my previous birth, I was a partial manifestation of Sri Hari as a gop called Sudama. I was one of the famous 8 attendants of Sri Krishna. Due to the curse of Devi Radhika, I had to become a Danavendra. The mantra of Sri Krishna is my favorite. I am able to know all about my past. You were also with Sri Krishna in your previous birth. You were Tulasi. Of course, you can also look into your past. The cause of your taking birth in Bharatvarsh is also the wrath of Sri Radha. Munivar, Tulasi was pleased to hear what Shankachud said. With a smile, she replied, Kant, it is men of such pure nature and disposition who are always praised in this world. A woman should always desire to have such a husband. You are such a one, and I have been vanquished by you. A man who is conquered by a woman becomes an object of ridicule and unholy. A man who is dominated by a woman, who has succumbed to a woman, becomes despicable to his elders, friends, and gods. Even his parents, brothers, and sisters condemn him in their minds. It takes 10 days for a Brahmin to get cleansed from the impurities of birth and death, 12 days for Kshatriyas, and 15 days for a Vaishya. For a Shudra, the time required for cleansing is 1 month. Similarly, the children born out of a Gandharva Vivaha will get cleansed in the prescribed time. There will be no stigma on them. This is clearly stated in the Shastras. But for a man who is under submission to a woman, there is no cleansing for his entire life. Only when he is burning on the funeral pyre he gets released from this sin. The ancestors of such a man do not accept obsequies that he offers for them. Even the Devatas do not accept oblations, flowers, and water offered by such a man. A man whose heart has been captivated and conquered by a woman, for such a man there is no purpose in his performing tap, jap, gyan, dhyan, homa pujan, or in acquiring knowledge or fame. I put you to a test to see how much pure knowledge you possess. It is necessary for a woman to know this before she agrees to accept one as her husband. The father who gives his daughter in marriage to a man who is devoid of good qualities, who is aged, ignorant in spirituality, impoverished, stupid, diseased, disfigured, ill tempered, ugly, crippled, disabled, blind, dumb, deaf, or one of neuter gender, such a father commits a sin equal to Brahmin Hatya, murder of a Brahmin. The father who gives his daughter in marriage to a peaceful, virtuous, youthful, spiritually intelligent, and simple natured groom gets the benefits equal to performing 10 Ashwamedha Yagyas. The father who sells his daughter to get wealth suffers in a hell called Kumbi Pak. There, he has to consume all dirty things. His body is attacked by worms and crows. He has to stay there for a long time. In his next birth, he suffers disease and illness. O Narad, after saying this, Devi Tulsi kept silent. Just then, Brahmaji came there and said, Shankachud, what you have been speaking to this Devi? Don't waste time. According to the rites of Gandharva Vivaha, you must marry her and accept her as your wife, because you are considered a gem among men and she is a gem among maidens. Then Brahmaji spoke to Tulasi, O faithful one, why are you taking a test of this youth? He has the Shakti to crush Devatas, Danavas, and Asuras. Just accept him and reside with him as Lakshmi with Narayan, Radhika with Sri Krishna, Savitri with me, Devi Prithvi with Bhagwan Varaha, Dakshina with Yagya, Anasuya with Atri, Damyanti with Nal, Rohini with Chandrama, Rati with Kamdev, Aditi with Kashyap, Arundhati with Vashisht, Ahalya with Gautam, Dehuti with Kardam, Tara with Brihaspati, Shatrupa with Manu, Swaha with Agni, Shachi with Indra, Pushti with Ganesh, Devsena with Skanda, and Sadhvi with Dharam. Just like them, you also abide with Shankachud as his Saubhagyavati, beloved. Ultimately, You will go back to Sri Krishna in Golok, and Shankachud will renounce this body, return to Vaikunth, and get absorbed into the four-armed Bhagwan Sri Vishnu. Chapter 9, Episode 19, Gandharva Marriage of Tulsi to Shankachud. Story of their previous birth told to the Devatas. Bhagwan Narayan says, Narad, after bestowing his blessings on them, Brahmaji left. Shankachud married Tulsi in the Gandharva tradition. Drums sounded in heaven and flowers rained down from the skies. With his beautiful wife always beside him, the Emperor Shankachud ruled for many years. During his reign, there was a peace among Devatas, Danavas, Asuras, Gandharvas, Kinnars, and Rakshasas. Having lost their supremacy, the Devatas were reduced to pauperism. They went to Brahmaji and began to lament about their poverty and distress. The creator Brahmaji took them with him to the abode of Sri Shankar. The Lord Shiva, who bears the moon on his head, listened to them patiently. Then he accompanied all of them to Vaikunth. Vaikunth is most supreme and sacred. It is the most difficult place to reach. Old age and death cannot touch anyone there. The entrance to the abode of Bhagwan Srihari is most imposing. Even the guards sat on jewelled thrones at the gate. This sight filled everyone with awe. They all wore pitambar and were decorated with ornaments. All wore garlands, and their complexion was like a rain-filled cloud. They all had four arms, holding Shankh, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. Their faces were smiling, and their eyes were like lotus petals. After getting permission from these resplendent guards, Brahma and all the gods passed through 16 doors before they came into the presence of Bhagwan Sri Hari. The room was lined with Devrishis and courtiers. All attendants had four arms. They all resembled Bhagwan Narayan and all bore the Kaustubh jewel on their chest. The whole aspect resembled a lunar assembly. All four sides of the Bhavan were similar in form and decor. They were inlaid with precious stones. It had been built completely as per the wishes of Sri Hari. There was intricate trellis and lattice work wrought with rows of gemstones. Curtains of pearl strings added beauty to the decor. Crores of tiny round mirrors were embedded in the walls and reflected the beauty. Exquisite paintings and pictures adorned the walls. Pillars and arches formed fantastic lines. There were lotuses everywhere, crafted from the finest and reddest rubies. There was a most beautiful staircase of 100 steps covered with the precious Shamantak gemstones. The banisters were made of divine chandan wood laced with silk. The pillars were made of sapphires. There were cupolas and domes encrusted with precious stones. Garlands of parijat flowers hung all over. There were sandalwood trees anointed with kasturi and kumkum, and the air was filled with fragrance. This wonderful place covered 1,000 yojans. Attendants stood all around. Everything was divine, and all who saw it were speechless with wonder and awe. Narad, Bhagwan Sri Hari presided over that magnificent setting like the moon amidst the planets and stars. Brahmaji, Bhagwan Shankar and all the Devatas had a Sakshat darshan of Bhagwan Sri Hari seated on an exquisite gem-studded throne. He was decorated with crown, ear studs and flower garland. His body was anointed with divine chandan. In one hand, a lotus rested. The divine form of the Lord was extremely peaceful and tranquil. Sri Lakshmi was engaged in worship of his lotus feet. He was chewing the fragrant roll of betel leaf offered to him by the lotus hands of Sri Lakshmi. Devi Ganga, with great devotion and respect, was waving a white whisk. The assembly of worshippers was bowed with humility and worship and was singing stutis and songs and praise. Muni, after getting this wonderful and profound darshan of Paripurnatham Bhagwan Sri Hari, Brahma and all the gods began to sing stutis. They were so filled with vibrations that tears welled up in their eyes and their voices were choked with emotion. Then, with great Shraddha, the creator of the universe, Brahmaji, placed before Sri Hari the plight of the Devatas. Sri Hari is omniscient and completely aware of everything. His face shone with a smile and he began a most illuminating elucidation. Bhagwan Sri Hari said, Brahman, this glorious and lustrous Shankachud was a gop in his previous birth. He is a fractional manifestation of myself. He was greatly devoted to me. I know everything about his past. It is now a part of ancient history. All those who had connection with Golok may now listen. Shankachud was a famous gop called Sudama. He was my prime courtier. The curse of Sri Radha caused him to be born in the Danava Yoni. Radha is completely kind and compassionate. It was on the condemnation of her handmaidens that she pronounced the curse on Sudama. But when Sudama came and offered pranams to me and left weeping, she felt gratified and her eyes filled with tears. She called him back and said, Vats, do not leave. Where are you going? But I pacified her and said, all of you must have patience and fortitude. This Sudama will endure the curse and return in half a second. Sudama, you must come back to this very place. Saying this, I calmed Radha. O guardian of the universe, Brahman, half a second in Golok is equal to one Manvantar on earth. Brahman, whatever is happening was ordained long ago. Therefore, this valiant Yogesh Shankachud, the knower of all languages, will ultimately return to Golok. Take this Trishul of mine and return quickly to Bharatvarsh. Shankar must use the Trishul to destroy the Danava. Danava Shankachud wears round his neck my all-protecting auspicious kavach. This is why he is undefeatable and invincible and victorious over the whole world. As long as the kavach is around his neck, no one can touch him. Therefore, I will come as a Brahmin and request him for the kavach. Another boon I have given is that when the virtue and chastity of his wife ends, only then he will die. To create this eventuality, I will cause her to become pregnant. I have decided this. Actually, Tulsi is my eternal companion, so in effect, there will be no blame or blemish. At the same time, Shankachud will die. Then his wife will renounce her body and come back to me as my beloved wife. Narad, saying this, Jagat Prabhu Sri Hari handed the Trishul to Bhagwan Shankar. Taking the Trishul, Rudra, Brahma, and all the Devatas returned to Bharatvarsh. Chapter 9, Episode 20. Pushpadant goes to Shankachud as the emissary of Shiva. Shankachud gives counsel on pure knowledge to Tulsi. Bhagwan Narayan says, Brahmaji entrusted the job of destroying Shankachud to Bhagwan Shankar and immediately left for his abode. The Devatas also returned to their places. Sri Mahadev chose a place under a banyan tree on the banks of a Chandrabhaga river and settled there to carry out his task of destroying Shankachud. Gandharvaraj Chitrarad, also called Pushpadant, was a great devotee of Sri Shankar. He made him his messenger and sent him to Shankachud. The kingdom of the Danavraj was more beautiful than Amaravati and more lavish than the kingdom of Kuber. It was 10 yojans long and 5 yojans wide. It was made of crystal and gemstones. All around there were mounted guards. It was protected by 7 moats and 7 forts. The crores of gems embedded in the walls blazed like fire. There were hundreds of roads and ornamental altars. Prosperous traders had built lavish mansions, and marketplaces were filled with rich merchandise. Temples and ashrams were decorated with red gemstones, the color of sindoor. Muni, after passing all this, Pushpadant reached the Bhavan of Shankachud in the center of the kingdom. The city was laid in a circular pattern like the lunar system. Like tongues of fire, 4 moats encircled it. Enemies would find it impossible to enter, but well-wishers and those seeking benevolence could go in freely. The Bhavan had ornamented parapets and towers. There were 12 imposing entrances, and each was guarded by doorkeepers. 3 lakhs of small temples, ornamental pillars, and many staircases. When Pushpadant reached the second door, he saw a guard with a trishul in his hand and a smile on his face. His eyes were yellow and his skin shone like copper. He got permission to enter. Once everyone knew he was carrying a message of war, no one stopped him. When he crossed the last door, he came to a room where a radiant Shankachud presided over an assembly of kings. He was seated on a golden throne. The legs were made of precious stones, and the throne was decorated with flowers made of colored gems. Overhead was a canopy of gold. Attendants were waving white and colored whisks. Shankachud was resplendent in rich robes and shining ornaments. He wore a garland round his neck, and his body was anointed with sandal paste. He was surrounded by great Danava kings. Armed Danavas were pacing up and down. Seeing all this, Pushpadant was greatly impressed. Then, as per the command of Bhagwan Shankar, he began to deliver the message. Narad, after hearing the words of the messenger Pushpadant, Shankachud began to smile. He said, Doot, I will come tomorrow morning. You may leave now. Pushpadant went back to Bhagwan Shankar under the banyan tree and repeated the words of Shankachud. At that moment, Kartikeya arrived. In addition, there also came Veerbhadra, Nandishwar, Mahakal, Subhadra, Vishalaksh, Pingalaksh, Bhasasur, Vikampan, Virup, Vikruti, Manibhadra, Bashkal, Kapilakya, Dirghadashtra, Vikat, Tamralochan, Kalkant, Balibhadra, Kalajivha, Kutichar, Balonmat, Ranshlagi, Durjay, Durgam, 8 Bhairavas, 11 Rudras, 8 Vasus, Indra, 12 sons, Agni, Chandrama, Vishwakarma, and 2 Ashwini Kumars, Kuber, Yamraj, Jayant, Nalkubar, Vayu, Varun, Budh, Mangal, Dharm, Shani, Ishan, and Kamdev. Also among the arrivals were the sharp-toothed Ugradanshra, Kotra, Kaitabi, and the goddess with 8 arms, Bhagavati Bhadrakali. She came on a jewel-studded conveyance. She was dressed in red robes, and around her neck was a garland of red flowers. Her body was anointed with red chandan paste. It was the spontaneous quality of this Devi Bhagavati Bhadrakali to dance, laugh, sing, grant protection to her devotees, and instill fear into her enemies. Her long and fearful tongue lolled out of her mouth. This Bhagavati Bhadrakali came, accompanied by countless yoginis, and bore in her hands the most fearful and efficient weapons like Shankh, Chakra, Gada, Padma, sword, shield, bow and arrows, a large headed staff, a shining shield, drinking cup as large as a yojan, a trishul which touched the sky, a sword as long as a yojan, a mace, a musal, pestle, Vajra thunderbolt, Pash noose, Ketak large-headed staff, a shining shield, Vaishnav Astra, Varun Astra, Gandharv, Garud, Brahma, weapons of Indra and Pashupati Shankar, Jrimban Astra, yawning, Parvat Astra, Maheshwar Astra, a missile, the pole of Vayu, Sammohan Astra, beguiling weapon, divine weapon mentioned in Atharva Veda, and the 100 divine weapons. Accompanying her was a horde of the most fierce Dakinis, sorceresses, bhoots, prets, pishachis, demonesses, Kushmanda, an ancient sage, Brahma Rakshas, Betal, Rakshas, Yaksh, and Kinnars. Together with all of them, Kartikeya offered pranams to his father Chandrasekhar Shiva and got permission from him to join the war. After the messenger left, Shankachud went into the inner apartments of his bhavan and told his wife Tulasi about the message of war. Her lips and talu went dry with fear. Her heart began to beat faster, but she spoke in a calm, soft way. Tulasi said, "Friend of my life, Nath, you are the deity of my life. Wait here for a while. Let me have a darshan of you for as long as possible. My heart is fluttering with agitation. When the night was about to end, I saw a bad dream." Maharaj Shankachud was a wise man. He accepted what Tulasi said and ate his food. He drank water. Then he spoke to Tulasi profound words of truth and benevolence. Shankachud said, "Priye, the fruits of our karmas are woven into the threads of Kal, time. Auspiciousness, happiness, joy, sorrow, fear, grief, and prosperity, all these are under the authority of fate or destiny. At the proper time, trees grow, spread their branches, and lay down their roots. Then come flowers, and at a proper time the fruits. It is Kal which ripens the fruits. Then, in accordance with Kal, the trees wither and die. Sundari, at the proper time trees are born, and at the proper time they reach the end of their existence. It is after accepting these conditions that Brahma started the creation and Vishnu nurtures and protects it. The destruction and dissolution by Shiva is also by Kal. The ruler of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva is Bhagavati Prakriti. It is she who is called Srashta, Pata, and Sanharta. It is only she and she alone who can make Kal dance to her whim. She is the one who is called Parabrahma Paramatma. It is she who, at her own free will, causes the movable and immovable universe to manifest. Sarvesh, Sarvaroop, Sarvatma, and Parameshwar are only some of her attributes. The one who creates, protects, and dissolves, That is the Param Prabhu you should worship. It is by her permission that wind gets its velocity, the sun gets its heat, Indra gives rain, death stalks living beings, Agni gives heat and flame, and the cool Chandrama circles the lunar orbit. Priya, come to the lotus feet of that Paramatma who is the death of death, the Kal of Kal, the chief of Yamraj, the Swami of Brahma, the mother of all mothers, and the destroyer of the destroyer. You go to the friend of all friends. Brahma has tied both of us with one string. By this I was caught in worldly bonds with you. Now, if we are to be separated, it is in the hands of fate. A wise man does not lament this. By the movement of Kal Chakra, joys and sorrows keep following one another. Now it is certain that you will attain Sakshat Bhagwan Narayan as your husband, for which you performed severe penance in Badri Ashram. By tapasya and a boon from Brahma, I had the privilege of marrying you. Kamini, now you will get Bhagwan Sri Hari as your husband. In Golok there is Brindavan. It is there that Govind will make you his loved one. I will also renounce this Danava body and go to Divyalok. You will see me there. My coming to this great Bharatvarsh was only because of the curse of Sri Radhaji. Priye, listen. My going back to Golok is a predestined fact. Therefore, there is no need to be sad. You will also renounce this body very soon and regain your Divya Roop. Then you will attain Sri Hari as your husband. Therefore, there is no need at all to get anxious or perturbed. Shankachud spoke these beautiful words to Tulasi. Dusk had fallen, and the jewelled bed was decorated with flowers and fragrant sandalwood. He lay down on it. Great and glorious thoughts passed his mind. A golden lamp was burning, and Tulasi was ministering to him. He kept encouraging Tulasi to be calm and surrendered, and gave to her that supreme knowledge that had been given to him by Bhagwan Sri Krishna in the divine Brindavan. Tulasi became peaceful and serene. She accepted that all creation is transient and destructible. Then they both slept. Chapter 9, Episode 21. Shankachud goes to Pushpa Bhadra, has darshan and beautiful clear dialogue with Bhagwan Shankar. Bhagwan Narayan says, Narad, Shankachud was a devotee of Sri Krishna. He meditated upon Sri Krishna in Brahma Muhurtam and got out of his bed. He took a bath, wore freshly washed clothes, put a shining tilak on his forehead, and completed his morning puja using curds, ghee, honey, parched rice, laja, and other auspicious ingredients. As per his daily practice, he offered to Brahmins gold, precious gems, and clothes. For an auspicious and safe journey, he offered diamonds, pearls, emeralds, and rubies to his Guru. He distributed among needy Brahmins elephants, horses, and untold wealth. At that time, he also gave away to Brahmins houses, villages, and hamlets. Then he coronated his son as king of all the Danavas and gave into his keeping his wife Tulasi, his kingdom, and all the worldly possessions. He put on his kavach, picked up his bow and arrow, and assembled his army of 3 lakh horses, 1 lakh elephants, 10,000 chariots, and 3 crore infantry armed with bows, arrows, and trishuls, and wearing armor. He appointed an experienced and knowledgeable warrior as the chief and gave him full command. This chief was capable of saving his army from enemies 3 times their size. Then Putting all his attention on Bhagwan Sri Krishna, he left. Seated on a jewelled chariot, he put his gurus before him and went to do seva and darshan of Bhagwan Shankar. Narad, on the banks of the river Pushpabhadra, there is a beautiful Akshayvat, undecaying banyan tree. Many rishis practicing siddhas have their ashrams there. It is also called Siddha Kshetra. This sacred place is in Bharatvarsh. It is also called Tapobhumi of Muni Kapil. It is situated on the eastern side of the Western Ocean, on the west of Malay Parvat, north of Srishail Parvat, and the southern part of Gandhamadhan Parvat. It is 5 yojans wide and 500 yojans long. In that part of Bharat flows a river which bestows auspiciousness. The water is pure and crystal clear and it never dries. It is called Pushpabhadra. She presides as the wife of the ocean and is always Saubhagyavati, never becomes a widow. Her source is in the Himalayas. A little distance from the source, she is joined by the Saraswati river. The river Gomati flows to her left. At the end, she joins the ocean Sangam on the west. When he reached this place, Shankachud had a darshan of Bhagwan Shankar. Bhagwan Shankar was sitting in Yogasan Mudra under the Akshayvat. His form was shining like a crore of suns. There was a smile on his face which was luminous and brilliant like a clear gem sparkling in the light. In his hand he held a trishul and his body was draped in tiger skin. Verily, the dear husband of Gauri, Bhagwan Shankar, is beautiful to behold. The air of peace and tranquility that surrounds him removes all fear of death from his bhaktas. It is his nature to grant fruits of all tapasyas and maintain the overflowing bounty of all the wealth in the world. He is very easily pleased. His face is never shadowed by sorrow. He is always eager to grant favors to his bhaktas. He is also called Vishwanath, Vishwabij, Vishwaroop, Vishwaj, Vishwambar, Vishwavar, and Vishwasanharak. He is the causal of all causes and very proficient in delivering his bhaktas from hell. He is the eternal Prabhu who granted knowledge, who is the seed of knowledge and who is Gyan Anand, joy of knowledge. Danavraj Shankachud beheld him and immediately got down from his chariot. Then with all his followers, he bowed humbly and offered pranams to Bhagwan Shankar. At that time, on the left side of Bhagwan Shankar presided Bhadrakali and in front of him Swami Kartikeya. The three great powers blessed Shankachud. All those present, including Nandishwar, stood up respectfully. Everyone spoke to everyone. Then Shankachud accepted a seat beside Bhagwan Shankar. Prasannatma Bhagwan Mahadev began to speak. Mahadevji said, Rajan, Brahma is the creator of the entire universe. He has a son called Dharam. The son of Dharam is Marichi, who has complete and total devotion to Sri Hari. Marichi had a most dharmic son Kashyap. Prajapati Daksh happily gave his 13 daughters to Kashyap in marriage. One of these daughters was a chaste and virtuous lady who was called Dhanu. She had 40 sons who are known as the splendid and glorious Dhanavas. The most brilliant and powerful Dhanava was Viprachit. He had a son, Dhamp, who was a Dharmatma, chaste and virtuous, and also a great devotee of Bhagwan Vishnu. He appointed Shukracharya as his guru and went to Pushkar Kshetra and chanted the great mantra of Bhagwan Sri Krishna for a period of 1 lakh years. Then he was blessed to have you as his son. In your previous birth, you were the main courtier of Bhagwan Sri Krishna. You were the most famous of all the Gopas. In this birth, you have come as a Danava king because of a curse you received from Sri Radhika. The Vaishnavas, devotees of Sri Vishnu, consider as insignificant and of no consequence any other god from Brahma downwards. They only recognize and worship Bhagwan Sri Hari. They even refuse to accept the four kinds of salvation offered to them: Salokya, Sarshti, Sayujya, and Samipya. They have no faith or reverence for Brahmatva, knowledge of the Supreme Self, or Amaratva, immortality. They totally discount the state of godhood or manhood. You are one of the foremost Vaishnavas as Bhakta of Sri Krishna. Then why is your mind entangled with this worthless and meaningless kingdom of gods? Rajan, return the kingdom of the gods and protect my qualities of love and forgiveness within you. Be happy and satisfied with your own kingdom and let the Devas be happy in theirs. There should be no hostility or rivalry between you because you are all descendants of Kashyap. If one measures the sins arising out of Brahma Hatya with the sins arising out of hatred of one's kith and kin, then the proportion is more than 1 is to 16. Rajendra, if you are worried about danger and loss of your wealth and possessions, just think. Is there anyone or anything in this universe that is permanent and indestructible? When the time comes for dissolution of creation, even Brahma goes out of existence. By the power of Parabrahma, he again manifests. His memory and recollection is concealed. By the Ichha of Ishwar, he does tapasya and gets the supreme knowledge. This is the absolute truth. Then, with this Nirmal Vidya, he gradually accomplishes his job of creation. And he gets the title of creator. Rajan, in Satya Yuga, no one speaks untruth. That is why in that Yuga, Dharma reigns in its complete form. That same Dharma reduced to 3 parts in Treta, 2 parts in Dwapar, and 1 part in Kali Yugas. Like the waning moon of Amavasya, by the end of Kali Yuga, Dharma remains only in name. The heat of the sun is intense in summer season, but it does not shine with the same intensity in winter season. Even in the span of one day, the sun cannot shine equally in the morning, noon, and evening. According to the degrees of Kal, it takes on the appearance of a newborn sun, and by noon it is in its prime, shining warm and brilliant. Then by evening it becomes weak and sinks. And sometimes Kal causes darkness even when the sun is reigning in the sky. It trembles when it is eclipsed by Rahu and then becomes brilliant again. Rajan, the moon which reaches to complete glory during Purnima cannot remain luminous forever. It keeps reducing day by day. Then again it waxes. From Amavasya, it starts increasing and decrease once again. The moon of Shukla Paksh is bright and luminous, and during Krishna Paksh it is faded and weak. During an eclipse, the beauty of the moon is completely hidden, and when the sky is full of rain clouds, it cannot shine through. With the passage of time, the moon is sometimes full and sometimes dark. Bali is the king of Sutal Lok, one of the nether worlds. But at this time, his kingdom has been snatched away from him. At the appointed time, the world is dissolved, and then by the influence of Kal, it is again created. By the instigation and impetus of Kal, creation and dissolution constantly takes place. Kal can only be compared to Parabrahma Paramatma because that is verily Parameshwar. It is by the grace of Parameshwar that I am Mrityunjay. Therefore, that which no one sees, I witness that Prakrit Pralay again and again. That same Parameshwar is at same time both Prakriti and Purush. He is the eternal spirit and he is the living creation. He assumes multifarious forms and actions. By virtue of the action, it gets a name and attribute. It is from that Parameshwar that Shrishtikarta Brahma, Palankarta Vishnu, and Samharkarta myself, Mahadev, have manifested. It is by His grace that we are creator, protector, destroyer. Rajan, at present I have commissioned the fierce and blazing Rudra to perform the work of dissolution, and myself am engaged in singing continuously the praises of Parameshwar. It is because of this that Mrityu, death and destruction cannot touch me. Even Mrityu fears Mrityu like snakes fear Garud, the condor. Narad, Sarvesh Bhagwan Shankar was presiding in the middle of the assembly. After this profound discourse, expressing the magnitude of his knowledge and sentiments, Bhagwan Shankar became silent. Danavraj most humbly thanked Bhagwan Shankar again and again. Then he spoke. Shankachur said, Bhagwan, whatever you have said can never be denied or misconstrued. I have a genuine prayer. Be pleased to hear me. You have just condemned Jati Droha, enmity within the clan, as a great sin. I have come here with all the wealth and possessions of Bali. Therefore, it belongs to me. At that time, Bhagwan Sri Hari was protecting Bali, so I could not bring him along with me. Parabrahma Paramatma is verily Prakriti Swarup. This entire creation is just a venture for his entertainment. At whatever time, whatever wealth he grants to any person belongs to that person. It is this wealth and power that has been the cause of contention and dispute between the Devas and the Danavas. It has been going on since the beginning of time and there does not seem to be an end. According to the dictates of time, sometimes they are victorious and sometimes they lose, and sometimes we are victorious and sometimes we lose. Therefore, you cannot take sides. You are verily friend, God, and Paramatma equally for both sides. If we now go to war with you, it will be highly improper for you. For us, if we win, we will achieve great honor and fame. But if we lose, not much harm will come to our reputation. Muni, hearing these words of Shankachur, Bhagwan Trilochan, three-eyed, began to laugh. Then he began to reply, Rajan, all of you belong to the clan of Brahma. Then there is no shame in my fighting a war with you, nor will I lose any honor if you are victorious. Before this, did not Srihari fight a war with Madhu and Kaitab? Rajan, he also fought with Hiranyakashipu and once with Hiranyaksh. I myself have fought a war with a Daitya called Tripur. And this is not all. Sarveshwari, Prakriti Bhagavati Jagadamba herself fought a war with Shumb and other Asuras. You are verily a partial manifestation of Paramatma Srihari and also his foremost attendant. Whatever Daityas have been killed so far, none was as strong and powerful as you. Then Rajan, why should I feel ashamed to confront you? The gods went to Sri Hari's charan for protection. It is he who sent them to me. Therefore, you must return the kingdom to the Devatas. That is all. Either you return the kingdom or prepare to engage in war with me. Now there is no point in further debate. Narad, when Bhagwan Shankar finished speaking, Shankachud arose and left with his ministers. Chapter 9, Episodes 22 and 23. Fierce and dreadful battle between Bhagwan Shankar and Shankachud. The Trishul of the Lord reduces Shankachud to ashes. Return of Sudama to Golok. Bhagwan Narayan says, Narad, after bowing before Mahadevji and offering pranam, Shankachud left with his ministers. At the same time, Bhagwan Shankar gave the order for battle. Shankachud was also ready with his army. Fierce fighting began and the two sides fought against each other. Mahendra fought with Vishparva, Bhaskar with Viprachitti, Chandrama with Dhamb, Kal with Kalasva, Agnidev with Gokarn, Kuber with Kalkeya, Vishwakarma with Mai, Mrityu with Bhayankar, Yama with Sanhar, Varun with Vikank, Samiran with Chanchal, Buddh with Dhritprisht, Shanaishtar with Raktaksh, Jayanti with Ratnasar, Vasuganas with Varchasvi Ganas, the Ashwini Kumars with Deeptiman, Nalkubar with Dhumra, Dharm with Durandhar, Mangal with Ushaksh, Bhanu with Shobhakar, Manmat with Pitar, the Adityas against Godamukh, Churn, Khadga, Dhwaj, Kanchimukh, Pind, Dhoom, Nandi, Vishwa and Palash. The 11 Rudras fought against 11 dangerous Rakshasas, Mahamari against Ugrachanda and others. With the Danavas, all the Nandishwaris fought. The situation compared with Pralay Kal. Bhagwan Shankar was seated under the Vatvriksha banyan tree with Swami Kartikeya. Muni, the battle was fearsome and ferocious. Shankachud was seated on a jewelled throne and surrounded by Danavas. Many warriors of the army of Bhagwan Shankar had been killed by the Danavas. Their bodies were riddled with holes. Swami Kartikeya became furious. He granted Abhay protection to all the Devatas. The Ganas felt their strength enhanced. Then he himself entered the battlefield and single-handed defeated 100 Akshauhini armies, each consisting of 1,09,350 foot soldiers, 65,610 horses, 21,870 chariots, and 21,870 elephants. Innumerable asuras were slain by the lotus-eyed Bhagavati Bhadrakali. When the Danava army began to falter, Shankachud entered and began to rain arrows all over. They were so fast and numerous, they looked like a rainstorm. When this created darkness, he made use of Agneyastra, fire-emitting missile. The Deva army was in disarray. Only Sri Kartikeya continued fighting. Then Shankachud caused all kinds of mountains, snakes, stones, and trees to fall on him. No one could control the avalanche. Then that powerful Danava broke the heavy bow and the divine chariot of Sri Kartikeya and also seriously injured his peacock. Then he aimed his blazing weapon, Pran-Gatini Shakti, life-taking, at the chest of Sri Kartikeya. For a moment, Sri Kartikeya fainted. Then, as soon as he regained consciousness, Sri Kartikeya picked up his divine bow. This bow had been given to him a long time ago by Sri Vishnu. His chariot was equipped with special weapons. He took them and began a fierce attack. But Shankachud could not be defeated. He was proficient in the art of Maya, and he created an illusion of a web of arrows which trapped Sri Kartikeya. Danavraj also possessed a weapon which always returned to him after hitting the target. It shone like 100 suns and glowing like blazing fire. It was enveloped in the power of Vishnu Tej. He used this against Sri Kartikeya, who fell down unconscious. Then Bhadrakali carried him and took him to Bhagwan Shankar. The Lord revived him and endowed him with additional Shakti. Sri Kartikeya got up and Bhadrakali entered the battlefield. Along with her went Nandishwar and all the other warriors. Seeing Bhadrakali, Shankachud advanced. The other Danavas were overcome with fear, but Shankachud gave them courage. Bhadrakali shot her blazing Agniban, but the Danava laughed and cut it with his Parjanya Astra. In the same way, he destroyed the effect of her Varunastra and Maheshwarastra with his Gandharvastra and Vaishnavastra. After this, the Narayanastra together with a mantra was used by Kali. This weapon had its effect. As soon as Shankachud saw it coming, he got down from his chariot with folded hands. The Narayan Astra came like blazing doom, but it rose upwards and Shankachud prostrated before it and offered pranam. Then the Devi used her mantra and Brahmastra, but Shankachud defended it off with his Brahmastra. The Devi sent one more divine weapon, but Shankachud enveloped it in a web of arrows. Then the Devi picked up her Pashupatastra, which had been energized with mantras, when suddenly there was Akashvani, divine sound from heaven. This king is a noble soul, and his wife is chaste and virtuous. Pashupat Astra does not have the power to kill him. As long as he wears the kavach protection of the mantra of Bhagwan Sri Hari around his neck, and as long as his wife protects her virtue and chastity, old age and death cannot come near him. This is the word of Sri Brahma. Hearing this, Devi Bhadrakali stopped using weapons. She ravenously began to devour all the Danavas in a divine play. She rushed at Shankachud to swallow him. He only got injured, but she could not devour him. She continued to consume the Danava army and was helped by her attendant yoginis. Then Bhadrakali went to Bhagwan Shankar and told him from beginning to end all that had happened on the battlefield. Bhagwan Shankar laughed. Bhadrakali also said, "There are still 1 lakh Danava warriors on the battlefield. These are the ones who fell out of my mouth. When I got ready to fire the Pashupat Astra, there was this Akashvani which said, 'The Danava king is invincible and cannot be killed by you.' After that, this wise and brave king stopped fighting. He only used weapons to fend off my divine weapons." Bhagwan Narayan says, Bhagwan Shiv is most competent and skillful in the handling of elements and principles. After listening to the description of the battlefield from Devi Bhadrakali, he descended on the battlefield with his ganas. When Shankachud saw him, he got down from his chariot and with great humility and bhakti prostrated before him and offered pranam. After that he mounted his chariot and began battle with Bhagwan Shiv. The fighting lasted for a very long time and there was neither victory nor defeat for anyone. Sometimes Shankachud would put down arms and rest in his chariot, and sometimes Bhagwan Shankar would rest on Rishabh. Countless Danavas were killed by Sri Shankar's army. Also, any Devatas who were killed by the Danavas were brought back to life by Sri Shiva. At that time, Bhagwan Sri Hari came, disguised as an old Brahmin, and spoke to Danavraj Shankachud. Sri Hari, in the form of a wise old Brahmin, said, Rajendra, kindly give me some alms. At this time, you are the only one who can give all the Shaktis. Therefore, please grant my desire. I am old, thirsty, and needy. After you promise to grant my request, I will tell you. Rajendra, Shankachud readily promised to give the Brahmin whatever he wanted. Then the Brahmin covered him with Maya and said, I desire to have your Krishna Kavach. Shankachud immediately removed the Kavach and gave it, and the Brahmin took it. Then the same Srihari assumed the form of Shankachud and went near Tulsi. He tricked her into believing that he was Shankachud and had relations with her. This broke her claim to virtue and chastity. Actually, in principle, she was verily the beloved wife of Sri Hari. At exactly the same time, Sri Shankar picked up his Trishul, which had been given by Sri Hari, and got ready to use it on Shankachud. That Trishul shone like the midday sun in summer and was as hot as the destroying fire of Pralay Kal. That Trishul was Durnivarya, invincible, Durdharsh, difficult to be caught, Avyarth, never fruitless, and Shatru Samharak, accurate and guaranteed to kill the enemy. That Trishul compared in brilliance and efficiency with the chakra itself. That formidable Trishul could only be wielded by Shiva or Keshav, no one else. It is Sajiv Brahma, living divinity. It never changes, and not everyone can see it. Narad, that Trishul has the power to destroy the entire universe. In divine play, Bhagwan Shankar picked it up and threw it at Shankachud. The wise king understood what had happened. He immediately threw down his bow, sat in Yogasana position, and with Ananya Chitta, where the attention of the devotee merges into the attention of God, meditated upon the lotus feet of Bhagwan Sri Krishna. The Trishul hovered for some time, then it fell on Shankachud and instantly turned him to ashes. As soon as his Danava body was destroyed, he assumed the divine form of a gop. He was just a young boy of 15 or 16. He had two arms. He held a murali flute in one hand. He was decorated with divine ornaments. Then suddenly a jeweled conveyance arrived from Golok. Many gopis were seated inside. Shankachud sat in the divine vehicle and was carried away towards Golok. Muni, at that time Ras Mandal was in progress and Bhagwan Sri Krishna and Bhagwati Radha presided. As soon as Shankachud reached, he prostrated and offered pranam. Seeing their beloved Sudama, both were very pleased. They embraced him and put him on their lap. Then the Trishul came back to Bhagwan Shankar. The conch was born out of the bones of Shankachud. That same Shank is used as a sacred article during pujas. The water from the Shank is very pleasing to the gods and it is considered Tirth Jal, holy water. Only for Shankar it holds no reverence. Wherever there is Shankadhvani, sound of the conch, there presides Bhagwati Lakshmi. Anyone who baths with water from a conch receives the fruits of bathing in all the holy places. The Shank is verily the dwelling place of Bhagwan Sri Hari. Wherever a Shank is kept, there will preside Bhagwan Sri Hari together with Bhagwati Lakshmi. Anything inauspicious cannot exist there. After killing Shankachud, Bhagwan Shiv returned to his abode. He mounted Vrishab and went, accompanied by his Ganas. The gods were very joyous at getting their kingdom back. The heavens resounded with divine drumbeats, and the Gandharvas and Kinnars sang divine songs. Flowers rained down from heaven on Bhagwan Shankar. The gods and the munis praised him again and again. Chapter 9, Episode 24. Sri Hari, disguised as Shankachud, breaks Tulasi's vow of chastity. Shankachud goes to Golok. Tulasi and Sri Hari remain on Bharatvarsh in the form of plant and black stone. The importance of Tulasi and qualities of Shalgram. Naradji said, Prabhu, what form did Bhagwan Narayan assume when he went to Tulasi? Please tell me about this incident. Bhagwan Narayan says, Narad, Bhagwan Sri Hari is always alert to fulfill the desires of the Devas. He used his Vaishnavi powers of delusion to trick the Kavach out of Shankachud. Then he assumed the form of Shankachud himself and went to the house of Tulasi. Breaking her virtue and chastity was the only way to ensure the killing of Shankachud. Seeing her husband returning from the war, she celebrated with joy and welcomed him with her whole heart. They spoke about the war, and then Jagat Prabhu Bhagwan Sri Hari, disguised as Shankachud, went to bed. Tulasi also slept with him, but later she realized that something was not right. She immediately asked, Mahesh, one who deceives, tell me who you are. You have destroyed my chastity through deception. I am no longer virtuous, and for this I am going to pronounce a curse on you. Brahman, out of fear of being cursed, Bhagwan Srihari manifested in his most pleasing form. Tulsi beheld that eternal Prabhu, Deveshwar Sri Hari. The Lord was of the color of a dark, new rain cloud. His eyes were like the petals of a full-blown lotus. He was as beautiful as Kamdev. He wore divine jewels and ornaments. There was a smile on his face. He wore pitambar robes. Tulsi fainted. Then when she revived, she spoke. Tulsi said, Nath, your heart is as hard as a stone cutter's chisel. That is how you could be so cruel? You used guile and deception to destroy my chastity so that my husband could be killed. Prabhu, you have no mercy and you are hard-hearted. For no fault of his, your bhakta has been killed. Tulsi began to weep inconsolably. Then the ocean of mercy and benevolence, Kamalapati Bhagwan Sri Hari, with great compassion, began to explain to Tulsi. Bhagwan Sri Hari said, Bhadre, to attain me, you spent many years in Bharatvarsh in tapasya. At the same time, Shankachud, who is a partial incarnation of me, also did tapasya to attain you. He received you as his wife and happily went to Golok. I consider this is the proper time to grant you the fruits of your tapasya. Rame, renounce this body, assume a divine form, and stay by me. Like Lakshmi, you also must stay with me forever. This body of yours will become the famous river Gandaki. This holy river will purify the people of Bharatvarsh. Your abundant locks of hair will become a plant which will be known by your name Tulsi. At every puja, Tulsi will occupy the highest place among leaves and flowers. Whether it is Swarglok, Martyalok, Patal, or Golok, you will always be by my side. Your abodes will be in Golok, the banks of the Virja river, Ras Mandal, Vrindavan, Bandirvan, Champakwan, Manohar Chandanvan, and the forests of Madhavi, Ketaki, Kund, and Mallika. The earth below a tulsi plant will be as holy and blessed as all the Tirth Sthans. places of pilgrimage. In order to collect the fallen leaves of the tulsi, the gods will reside under her shade, and so will I. Anyone who gets a sprinkling of tulsi jal can consider that he has taken a dip in all the holy rivers and lakes and has been purified at all yagyas. The satisfaction that Bhagwan Srihari gets from thousands of pots of Amrut, he gets the same degree of satisfaction from one single tulsi leaf that is offered. The fruits one gets by free distribution of 10,000 milch cows can be obtained by performing Tulsi Patradhan in the month of Kartik. At the time of death, if a person receives the water of Tulsi Patra in his mouth, he becomes entitled to a place in the abode of Bhagwan Vishnu. The person who daily receives Tulsi Jal with great reverence gets the fruits of 1 lakh Ashwamedh Yagyas. The person who holds tulsi leaves in his hands and surrenders his life at holy places, he goes straight to Vishnulok. He who wears a mala of beads made of tulsi wood gets the fruits of Ashwamedha with every step that he takes. There is no doubt in this. The person who makes a promise with tulsi in his hands as witness and then does not fulfill his promise, he goes to a hell called Kal Sutra for a period equal to the lifespan of the sun and the moon. He who makes a false promise in the vicinity of Tulsi goes to a hell called Kumbipak and stays there for ages. Purnima, Amavasya, and dawn and dusk. Ashauch, religious uncleanliness caused by the birth of a child or death of a near relative, after retiring at night or before bath, during these times or when oil has been applied to the body, if one breaks tulsi leaves, it is equivalent to cutting the head of Bhagwan Sri Hari. Sadhavi, during Shraddh, fast, bestowal of alms, making vows, and during Archana, if the tulsi leaves wilt, it does not matter because it retains its holiness for 3 nights. Tulsi leaves which have fallen on earth or in the water, or the leaves which were offered to Sri Vishnu, can be washed and used for any other purpose. Golok is an auspicious dham. You will become the presiding Devi of Tulsi and stay by the side of me, Krishna. The river which was born out of your mortal remains will be a most holy river of Bharatvarsh and will become the wife of the ocean. That ocean is a part of myself. You will abide beside me in Vaikunt in the same way as Lakshmi. To honor your curse, I will descend to Bharatvarsh in the form of a black stone called Shalgram. I will live on the banks of the river Gandaki. Crores of insects will use their jaws to carve out my chakra on these shalgrams. The stone which has one vent will have 4 chakras, and the one which has a one mala and is the color of a rain cloud will be the indicator of Lakshmi Narayan. The stone with one opening and 4 chakras, but the one mala is not visible and yet is the color of a rain cloud, such a stone should be considered a pratima, idol or image of Lakshmi and Vishnu. The stone, which has 2 openings, 4 chakras, and has the cloven hoof of a cow, plus etching of a Vanmala, should be honored as the form of Bhagwan Raghavendra. The stone, which has the faint impression of 2 chakras but does not have the lines of Vanmala, that rain cloud colored stone should be considered to be the image of Bhagwan Sridhar. This stone grants auspiciousness and well-being to a grahasti, householder. The stone, which is spherical like a ball, which does not have the Vanmala, but which has very clearly etched 2 chakras on it, that is the announcer of Sri Damodar. A stone which is round, which has 2 chakras plus a bow and arrow etched on it, should be recognized as the image of Sri Rama. The stone, which has 7 chakras and a canopy on it, is the image of Bhagwan Rajarajeshwar. Adoration of this stone gives royal wealth. The spherical stone of the color of a rain cloud, which bears 14 chakras, should be recognized as the image of Bhagwan Anant. Worship of this grants dharma, earth, calm, and moksha. The stone, which is shaped like a chakra and has on it 2 chakras, Shri, and the cloven hoof of a cow, this stone of dark color should be recognized as Bhagwan Madhusudan. The stone, which has only one indistinct chakra, is Bhagwan Gadadhar, and the one which has 2 chakras and the face of a horse should be recognized as the image of Bhagwan Haigriv. Sadhavi, the stone which has a white face, 2 chakras on it, and which looks intricate and formidable, is the form of Sri Narsimha. It grants freedom from worldly desires. The shalgram, which has a white face, 2 chakras, and a Vanmala etched on it, is very auspicious for householders as it represents Bhagwan Sri Lakshmi Narayan. The stone of Bhagwan Vasudev. By performing archana to this, all desires get fulfilled. The stone, which has a subtle chakra on it and which is full of small holes, is the form of Pradyumna. It gives happiness to the household. The stone, which has 2 chakras joined together and which is white at the back, is the form of Bhagwan Shankarshan and gives joy to householders. The stone, which is a perfect sphere and yellow in color, is identified by the wise as Bhagwan Anirudh, who blesses householders. Wherever there is a Shalgram rock, there resides Bhagwan Sri Hari and Sri Lakshmi with all the holy Tirths around them. Sins including Brahma Hatya, murder of a Brahmin, get washed away by performing puja to a Shalgram. The shalgram shaped like a canopy gives a kingdom, and a spherical stone gives wealth. A shalgram that is shaped like a cart causes grief, while a sharp pointed stone, like a dart, can be a messenger of death. Any fast, act of charity, vow, or shraddh performed in the vicinity of a shalgram is special. A person who lives near a shalgram gets the boons of bathing and visiting all the holy places and also participating in all yagyas. Sadhavi, whatever punyas one gets from reading the 4 Vedas and from tapasya can all be obtained by worshipping the shalgram. He who uses the water of the shalgram rock for abhishek gets the blessings that come from works of charity and pradakshina of Prithvi. The one who drinks daily the water of Shalgram Shila gets the prasad that even the gods pray for. There is no doubt in this. All the holy places desire to purify such a person. Then he becomes entitled to a place near the lotus feet of Bhagwan Srihari and he lives there for many pralays. As soon as he reaches, Bhagwan Srihari appoints him as his attendant. Just in the presence of such a soul, all the great sins like Brahmahatya run away like snakes from Garuda. The dust of his feet purifies the earth. His birth grants release to thousands of ancestors. At the time of death, if a person sips Shalgram water, he gets released from all his sins and goes to Vishnulok. There is no doubt in this. The person who holds a shalgram in his hands and makes a false promise goes to a hell called Kumbipak and stays there for a lifespan of Brahma. The one who bears a shalgram and does not keep his promise goes to a hell called Asipatra for a period of 1 lakh manvantars. Kante, the one who separates tulsi leaves from the shalgram in his next life will not have a wife. The one who crushes or breaks tulsi leaves with a shank does not have a wife and for 7 births remains ill and infirm. The person who respectfully and lovingly keeps shalgram, tulsi, and shank becomes dear to Sri Hari. Narad, after saying all these things to Devi Tulsi, Bhagwan Srihari became silent. Tulsi renounced her body, assumed a divine form, and took her place on the chest of Bhagwan Srihari. Kamalapati Bhagwan Srihari took her and left for Vaikunth. Narad, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Ganga, and Tulsi, these 4 Devis are the wives of Bhagwan Srihari. Then Tulsi turned into the Gandaki river and Bhagwan Srihari presided on her banks as the Shalgram rock. Muni, the microscopic creatures that live there, use their jaws to create various types of Shalgram. These stones fall into the water and bestow blessings. The stones which fall on the ground get heated by the sun and turn yellow. These are not to be used in pujas as they are pingala in quality. Narad, I have told you the full story. Now what else would you like to hear?
The holy recital of Srimad Devi Bhagavat. Jai Shri Mataji.